you may have a friend who tells you, that they've done this thing, and you start comparing yourself to them, but your plan is going to be different because your situation is different.
And then back to the fear, this whole thing started because of the turbulence, right? She was fearful, and she overcompensated, we'll say.
Yes.
For that fear.
That wasn't something that was prescribed to her.
Right.
Like you were talking about earlier with malpractice.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the whole point of, you need a professional for your finances too. What was right for her friend that she could handle,
And
Annie
also,
wasn't able to.
When you think of how people react to markets,
Yeah.
when they react in fear, or really when you let your emotions lead your decisions in general, whether we're talking about finances or personally, when you do that, it almost always comes back to bite you. A lot of people say, well, let your heart lead you. No. Especially if you're like me and you can be swayed very strongly by emotions, you've got to learn to let your head lead you. You've got to make decisions based on fact, not feeling. And when it comes to this, we always tell people things are often never as bad or as good as you think they are. So take some time to temper yourself, and having somebody to kind of coach you through those times where emotions are running high can really help you with that, so you don't just react.
And speaking of fear, a lot of questions that we've had this week from clients is they're fearful of taxes being increased. And so they're wondering, should I just go ahead and take money out of my IRA now and just pay the taxes on it and get it behind me while taxes are low? And so we say, hang on just a minute, because we're not going to react out of fear, and we also are not going to react about something that we don't know is going to happen, because the tax raises that we've heard about are very likely not for the middle class. It's going to be in other areas. So we don't necessarily know that taxes are going to go up for the middle class, and we don't know that, you should be fearful and take your IRA money out and just pay all the taxes now. So we're going to think about this logically and about what we do know.
Fear and finances do not mix ever, not ever. We could do we probably have done a whole show on that. But when you think about other avenues there, it can also be not on the investment side, but on the spending side, right? I mean, we've talked about this before, the social media presence, being on Facebook.
Yeah.
Some of my Facebook friends, every time I check it, I feel like they're on vacation. It's real, and they're not, but it really is easy to go, man, those guys are living life, right? Why am I not taking 13 vacations a year? Well, it's about you, not about what everybody else is doing, but it's a fear of missing out. And that I think that's more prevalent in today's world than it ever has been.
I agree.
Yeah. I think people are just more aware of what other people have.
Yeah.
I remember when my husband finished college and we were kind of getting established as adults, and all of our friends seemed to have all this stuff. And one day we looked at each other, we were like, what are we doing wrong?
Yep.
Now, granted, this was before I worked here and understood, but even then we went, they've got to be in debt.
Yeah,
there's no way they can afford that stuff without debt.
They probably were.
Yes. And so that's something to remember. Just because someone looks like they're living the high life doesn't mean that their finances are in order. So be cautious of seeing them as your kind of go-to for what you're aiming at for yourself.
Want more content like this delivered to your inbox weekly? Visit fastest4.com to learn more.